Hey everybody, welcome back to You Are Free TV. It is Wednesday, June 18th, 2025, and I'm so glad to be back with you here on the channel. I was going to be here yesterday, but I wanted to take some time to look further into what is going on and how the field is filling up with the Iran situation, etc. And so I'm going to jump into the news here. I'll start with my disclaimer. This video is for entertainment purposes only. It is protected by the United States Constitution protecting free speech, as well as the Sullivan Act and reporting. It is not intended to bully or harass anyone, never to incite violence, hatred, or lawlessness of any kind. It doesn't give legal, medical, or financial advice, and there are further disclaimers in the description below. So glad to be back with you. I always start by saying thank you. Thank you so much to everybody who supports the channel, especially monthly. You make it happen. I'm so appreciative to keep this channel going. You Are Free TV. And thanks to Lana for the donation and to everybody. So I'm going to put on the glasses and we're going to jump in because, of course, what we have here is a major, huge sphere of things happening, and it is not simple. It's complex, and Trump is doing what he usually does, which is eyeballing everything and taking into account what is the best way forward with so many massive plays on the ground here of what's happening. So let's just jump in. I'll put on the glasses, and I might start with you know how I in previous video where I always talk about this international fellowship of Christians and Jews, how they do that on the TV. If you watch Real America's Voice or other channels, where you get this nonprofit that comes up and asks for money, but it's always for Jews supposedly, and it's always some emergency, you know. And now they have this thing called Israel Red Alert, okay, International Fellowship of Christians and Jews. The Israel Red Alert is that they need $45, okay, so that they can, because Iran attacks Israel. Iran attacks Israel, as if that's what's happened, and they need $45 because they need to give food boxes, okay, to Israelis that are under attack. You just can't make it up. It's so hysterical. It's levity. It's disturbing, but I like to start with a little levity because it just cracks me up. And you know, Mike Huckabee, he's the ambassador to Israel. He's supposedly trying to plan the evacuations to get the Americans out. Nothing's happening so far. They've closed down, of course, the American embassy in Jerusalem for the rest of the week. And, you know, Israel has never met a Christian civilization or, you know, ancient site that it hasn't destroyed, basically, and Christians all over in the area so suffering under what Netanyahu has done over the last 20 plus years. So there's that. But let's just get into it, okay? Very interesting things, and I'm just going to go down the line. Okay, there's so much. I will just talk about what's come out recently. We have basically, looks like China is supplying planes to squirrel out the elites of Iran that are coming through the stands, and the CCP is basically getting everybody out of Iran that has the money, has the gold, and all the money, and they're getting out of Iran very quickly. And of course, Trump came out today from the Rose Garden and the White House. And of course, I believe that the thumbnail here that I'll be putting up with the description will be Trump specifically said, and so very interesting, I was hunted and now I'm the hunter. And for everybody who's followed everything forever, they know that's a very specific language for Trump to use, saying he was the hunter, the hunted who became now the hunter. It used to be, you know, the hunters are now the hunted. But now, very interesting for him to use that language, especially now that's everything going on, because I don't believe this is a one-way situation street of Trump saying, hey, now we're going to attack Iran. That's not what's going on. It's much more complex. Trump did say from the Oval today that when he was asked about regime change in Iran, did he have a plan for what that would look like? And he said, I have a plan for everything. And so we, of course, the whole situation of the son of the former king of Iran, the Shah, Mohammed Reza Pahlavi, and Reza Pahlavi has come out saying basically, I'm coming back and I'm going to now rule Iran. I'm going to come back and we're going to get rid of the radical Islam regime. And Trump said today, oh, they said they want to come to the White House and we're going to be meeting. And then supposedly coming out through, the Wall Street Journal, okay, the Amazon Journal, and et cetera, saying, no, Trump has a plan of attack. And Iran has come out and said we would never, say that we're coming to the White House or we would surrender in any way. However, we saw also today at least 3 of the most elite planes out of Iran, including what was supposedly their presidential plane, leaving and flying over the Straits of Hormuz to Oman. Okay, and of course, Oman is where the talks were supposed to happen, and this whole situation of Trump saying, we know where you are, we're not going to kill you, Khamenei, but yeah, you need to give up your nuclear stuff. And the bigger picture here that people need to understand is, as much as we want there to not be any foreign anything that Trump is dealing with and having to deal with, basically, that as much as we want that, okay, the deep state, the Cartel Babylon, doesn't stop attacking. And it was planned this way, and through Bilderberg and everything over the weekend. The timing of it was for now because of course, the economic recovery of the United States, which is what we're all focused on. And we're all focused on, of course, today, Kash Patel coming out with the FBI. Oh, China stole the election. Oh, now they found, the FBI records that they, all the ballots, the millions of ballots that China printed out already pre-voted for Biden. And it was a 2020 election steal and all that. Yeah, we would like that. Okay. That should be the top news item, okay, is everything about the stolen 2020 election and who was involved in everything. Philadelphia, okay, Atlanta, Phoenix, all of it, and how they know that. And of course, the CCP just did it again in South Korea with the same exact thing of the already printed ballots and the control of the machines through Huawei and a centralized government there in South Korea, stealing the election, the inauguration of, is it Yu? Is that his name, Yu? It's not in my head right now. The new CCP planted president in South Korea is, at his inauguration, there was literally like 200 people there. There was nobody there. Okay, it was a total steal of the election of South Korea, where they're saying, hey, we should have the opportunity to trade and be close to China. And so that should be our main concern. And with Kash Patel coming out and saying, hey, we're putting all this data we have, all this stuff about how not only did they print millions of ballots and put them into our system that were already for Biden, but the FBI knew about it and told the DNI, told the CIA. Of course, that was the CIA under Biden, or at that, sorry, not under Biden, but before that time, they just totally covered it up. They covered it up. And basically the FBI asked the other agencies, CIA, and the DNI and the director of all the agencies, to destroy the evidence of these CCP ballots that came in and stole the election in 2020. And Patel says, oh, we're passing that on to the Senate Intelligence Committee, right? The Senate Intelligence, right? As if that's good news, right? Because that's where things go to die. And no, this is more like a coup. This is not a Senate issue. This is an executive Article 2 situation where basically there should be U.S. Marshals going out to collect everybody involved, okay? Because That is the situation where the Senate is so inept that they can't even, they won't. Um, and I loved watching Tucker Carlson destroy Ted Cruz in the interview that he posted today. That was fantastic. And calling out Cruz about multiple things. I'll get into that later in the video because it's mostly entertainment, but it just really shows how these APAC-funded senators won't do anything, and one of them is, and he's on the Senate Intelligence Committee, and one of them is, of course, confirming the 100 still unconfirmed nominees for positions, especially to do with national intelligence, to do with everything from National Security Council to everything that Trump has put up these nominees. The Senate will not confirm. So 202-224-3121, if you want to call your senator and say, hey, no, you're so busy with the big, beautiful bill, but could you actually confirm Trump's picks? Because we're in this pre-war situation, and it would be really great if he had the intelligence people that he's trying to get in actually confirmed. So there's that. As we're dealing with, the massive deep state of CENTCOM and what's rolling out, because CENTCOM being the hugely Pentagon controlled, group here under General Kurilla, and everything going on there to do with this Israeli war rollout that was timed specifically to hobble America right now, and of course, there's so much more. Okay, so as we move in here, I'm just going to say a bunch of things. So we get the situation of Trump saying, I'm going to talk to the Iranians again, and he's saying this multiple levels. Okay, he's basically telling us, I have Khomeini. All right, we know where he is. We know what's going on. He's saying, hey, they want to talk. There's these planes, okay, that supposedly are the top level presidential planes of Iran that are leaving and going to Oman. And then we are hearing that that there is going to be a regime change, which I've been saying is going to happen. And the Israelis seem to be really pushing this. The reason they chose the Rising Lion PSYOP name for their operation is to, of course, invoke the old monarchy of that was overthrown, to bring in the radical jihadists, the Shiites, into Iran in 79. Was that the lion was, of course, on the flag of Iran, the gold lion, and it has to do with multiple things. Mithra, it goes back to the Zoroastrian times, but basically that the Persian king is the son of the East, and the lion on the flag before they brought in the Shiites. And of course, Israel had everything to do with that happening massively. But basically now they want to bring the Shah's son back because he is super aligned with Reza Pahlavi, with Israel. Okay. And we have his daughter marrying a prominent Jewish man named, I think it's Bradley Sherman, who is involved with this company called Matternet. And it wasn't a couple of years ago. This just happened on June 9th. Okay, they just got married in New York City, in Manhattan, a very fancy royal wedding. And the first time, supposedly, because when you get back into the Persian Empire in the 20th century, there's a whole huge Jewish situation there to do with what is the monarchy of Iran. But basically, it's very interesting to see that Matternet is a drone delivery system. Isn't that interesting? In this case of Matternet, it's a delivery system of goods, like from Amazon, okay, out of Silicon Valley, that Bradley Sherman, who married the daughter of Pahlavi, is basically, he handles international accounts, international development for Matternet. Is it is it's a drone delivery system, right? it's just so interesting when we look at this whole situation of these kamikaze drones out of semi trucks, and this whole way that Israel keeps doing its attacks. We had the one on Russia, we have the one here in Iran, and supposedly these drones are for delivering your packages, okay, out of Matternet. And so we'll be digging into that a little bit, but basically this Operation Rising Lion having to do with trolling the Shiites, saying, "Hey, we're bringing back Pahlavi. Okay, we're bringing back the monarchy." And Pahlavi putting out videos saying, "I will see you soon. The Islamic regime is almost over, and I am coming back." And there's no, is that who is Trump's regime change choice? Because it is basically an Iran that then is massively connected to Israel. Okay, and so that is a huge, huge situation. And so we know that Trump is meeting this afternoon in the war room, in the situation room. Basically, they're putting out that he has okayed the takeout of the Fordow base, the Fordow Dome, the deep underground military base that was basically built, and this is where it gets into it, of the pickle, okay, is that yes, Iran absolutely, it not only does it have nuclear material, it absolutely has nuclear weapons, okay, and for entertainment purposes only, but I'm just saying it from everything we've done over all the years of Barack Obama giving the $1.7 billion in cash, all the money flowing there, the Muslim Brotherhood connection here is huge, the connection through Pakistan, all of it. And Trump has come out and said, "I've been talking to my Pakistani negotiators. Hopefully they don't get killed by Israel, because Israel kills every negotiator of everything in the last like 30 years. Whenever there's a peace plan, they come and kill the negotiators." And I'll rattle through a few of those in a moment. But when we look at this, it's like, Trump said, basically, "I've been talking to the Pakistanis, just as I was talking about them with the India Pakistan situation," and basically saying, "I'm coming out here saying to the Pakistanis, hey, you're not going to nuke anybody, and you're not going to come out and get involved in this because of our trade deals, and you need to stay neutral," and all of that. And there's been a bit of silence from Pakistan since then. So we'll see what happens there. But as I said, with how the Mossad kills the negotiators, how this and how they've been behind every FF, and that is our biggest concern. Prayers for Trump. Okay, we know the doomsday plan. I'm going to get back to the negotiators, but the doomsday plan was doomsday plane, of course, was sent up from Shreveport, Louisiana, took a strange flight path, gets back to DC, and the doomsday plane is, of course, Trump's super protective plane, okay, for him to escape a nuclear attack. So it's serious business with possible FFs. And as much as we want it to be that we're not involved, we're involved. And you and I, we're not, but our taxpayer dollar money was stolen from us, okay? And it whether it was Hillary Clinton, for entertainment purposes only, with the Piketon, Ohio uranium enrichment facility, okay, and all the Ukrainians around there, huge Ukrainian situation there. And George Webb has been covering this for years. I'll link a great video because he's worried about FFs. He is thinking will be happening in Chicago, which makes a lot of sense because, of course, now the ICE focus is now moving towards Chicago, as Trump is saying, basically, we've got to get these deportations in these blue cities where we got to get all these illegal voters out, because they're just going to do it again. They're just going to keep stealing the elections with the illegal voters. And it makes tons of sense. But Piketon, Ohio, right? So back to, the Ukraine Fordow, deep underground military base, is that it was built in the last 10 to 15 years with the money, okay, and the uranium that came from the U.S. funneled out. Okay, don't ever forget uranium one, right? But Hillary Clinton as Secretary of State, and then John Kerry as Secretary of State, who even after Trump got in, and Kerry is, of course, 322 Bonesman, he was right after Trump's inauguration originally, 2017, he jets off to Iran, right? And he's doing doing treason. He's full on violating FARA, meeting with Iranians. Is because Barack Obama had given all that money, not to mention the drone technology, but the money, and I'm sure billions we don't know about, but basically that there is the building of Fordow and the deep underground military base with, the fissile material, the enriched uranium stolen, squirreled out from the USA. All right, and all underneath these treasonous people that intended to kick off World War III. And if Hillary had gotten in, it would already be a done deal. Who knows if we'd even be here, right? We'd have the whole full surveillance World Economic Forum situation already taken over. But basically, that does exist, and it has existed as a way to create this World War III scenario with the full knowledge and participation of Israel, Mossad, and Netanyahu, who's been at this since 1980. Okay, he's every single U.S. war, and you've seen the compilations probably by now. Every single year, practically since 1980, of Netanyahu talking about what then became all the false flag wars that the USA went in and wasted our treasure and the blood of Americans, and to create this Middle East giant cash cow for the military industrial complex. And the plan was to kick off World War III right now. And so Trump is dealing with this massive mega situation of how do we handle this regime change, which I think he thought was going to come later. I do think he knew this was happening as part of during his presidency, that Iran, that the mullahs, that the Shiite regime would be taken down, but that it was supposed to be like in a year, okay? And they threw it at him early, and he's uber pissed off. And it's amazing how he comes off so calm. And it just, I kind of would second J.D. Vance here when he says, let's trust Trump in this, okay? As much as we love Thomas Massie and him saying, hey, let's bring this, war powers resolutions to the Congress, to prevent Trump doing anything to do with Iran. Can you imagine our Congress being in control right now of what's going on? It's laughable. It's so disturbing to even think about these inept people who are completely captured by their corporate donors, and have just screw us over and over and over and over again. So yeah, let's pray for Trump, his protection and his safety, and also for America, as the FFs are extremely likely, okay, that if Israel doesn't get its way in this next week, that they're with Trump going in and destroying Fordow. And as I said, it is a threat. It is a threat because it has been built with the intention, and as so many people already believe, that it does have the weapons. And we've gotten the nuclear sniffer planes that have sent back massive encrypted nuclear signal messages, that they have been picking up the nuclear materials, and etc. So what's going to go down there is going to go down, and Trump is trying to make it happen in a way that is not going to involve troops on the ground. And yet, I believe there's more going on that has to do also with Trump. He's no longer gaslit by Israel and Netanyahu. That is what I feel on this channel. I know a lot of people just think that's not true, but I do believe that Trump is no longer gaslit by the Israel cabal. and that he is very aware of Netanyahu's run and control over all the false flags, okay, that have happened in the United States from all the way from Kuwait, all right, on up, and all the regime changes and all the destruction, Libya, Iraq, all of it. And I do think that there is a situation here, right? It's just like Pearl Harbor, World War II. All right, and the sending in of the third battle carrier, they just sent out the USS Gerald Ford in heading for the Mediterranean, as well as in the Straits of Hormuz. We're seeing the GPS communications are being hacked by the Iranians. Is it the Iranians in the Straits of Hormuz, causing massive crashes of oil tankers, etc., on fire, all kinds of stuff going on. But then, of course, the sending out of the sunset sail of the USS Nimitz. So now the USS Gerald Ford, but in front of them all is the Nimitz, okay? And its battle carrier group is like 12 ships. It's huge. It's not like just the Nimitz, which is, it was about to be decommissioned like in a month. And just like in Pearl Harbor in World War II, where they put out all these old battleships, okay, into the Pacific that were kind of in the same position. They were at the end of their days. And then, it was all organized that they would be hit by a torpedo, by multiple torpedoes, and to drag the U.S. into World War II. I believe that the situation about putting Nimitz out as a decoy is what's happening now. And I don't believe that, I believe that Trump knows about this, okay, because I believe that Putin, it's very interesting when you have Lavrov, the foreign minister there out of Russia, coming out and saying, hey, we've stopped all diplomatic talks with the U.S., those have been paused. And then, it's complete baloney. Trump's like, no, I just talked to Putin yesterday. He's like, he's coming out saying, hey, I'm happy to intervene. We're hearing that Khamenei and his family and higher ups could be going to exile in Russia. That could already be happening right now, as we're seeing this chatter of never surrender from Iran. But we see the planes going to Oman, and we're hearing all of this where Trump is saying, total surrender, all of this. Trump is saying these things, okay, um, multiple layered, all right, and it's not all, I'm not saying it was all 5D chess. What I'm saying here is that Trump is putting out the social media, okay, that has to be cover for operations that are going on. And Trump does not want to kill Khamenei because he doesn't want to be killed, right? And I'll just throw this out there before I get more into Putin and what he's about to, what's going on there. Well, I'll just say that first. He basically, we also have coming out of Putin is that Russia has said, hey, we could be a guarantor. We could go in and basically secure Fordow Dam, the Fordow Dam. And it'll be interesting to see what Trump decides to do. Do they blow it up? For one thing, there's a massive radiological issue here of there being, unless they turn it all to glass, okay, the nuclear, there was this talk of, Israel's going to hit it with a neutron bomb kind of thing, nuclear fusion. But it'll be interesting to see, because do they really want to destroy all the nuclear potential of Iran, especially with a new regime coming in? I kind of don't think so. I think that part of this whole OMEC thing and, the new turning it into a new old, what Persia used to be of everybody's, we're all just, basically doing well and living the dream here in Iran with our mod cons and our, putting in the pipelines and creating a new society. I think there's a huge issue here. I think that Trump is weighing this issue of putting the old king family back in power. And I think that is part of what is this timing and what's being figured out. We put in the old Shaw's family again. What's the situation there? Um, so basically, this position of Russia saying, "Hey, what if we come in? We come in and we basically hold down the base, okay, and do the boots on the ground. So America doesn't do the boots on the ground. Russia comes in, does the boots on the ground, like, hey, yeah, we had a pact, Iran, but you guys are all dead and you're out. So we're going to come in because we're aligning with the USA and actually protects the Fordow base while this whole regime change situation is occurring. And I also do believe part of this is that with the three battle carrier groups, that this isn't just to protect Israel, but it is actually to protect the situation from Israel of what's going to happen in Iran once this regime change occurs. And so it is very, very intense, very complex, multiple layers here, but it's all very interesting to watch and to kind of discern as we see all of this going down. And so that is there's I never got into I forgot to get back to all the times that Israel, besides every FF, okay, we have so many things. We have possible FFs. George Webb talking about Chicago. He thinks that Trump Tower might be hit. And he's getting back to, the Club K stuff to do with semis that have, missile launchers in them. And what does Israel keep doing, right? It's the drones. It's the trucks filled with explosives, and it's kind of their MO. And the calling of jihad and all of this and all of that in the USA, and ICE moving to Chicago. And George Webb is putting out there, hey, there could actually, maybe this has to do with hitting Trump Tower in Chicago, that there's this strange movement of of illegals and putting them closer to Trump Tower, where they were housed before. There's all this strange stuff as there's this focus on MSM on Chicago all of a sudden. The Chicago mayor, now the ICE raid's moving to Chicago. And Webb is saying, hey, could this be a Trump Tower situation that I kind of highlighted way back in 2017 with like the suitcase nukes and the Club K semis filled with missile launchers stuff. And so that's one thing, okay? But if we look at what Israel has done here in hobbling the U.S.-Iran negotiations, remember Trump first cut Netanyahu out. He said this is a direct USA-Iran negotiation, and it's not about a third party of Israel. And that was met with very, very stern, anger by Netanyahu. And basically now all those negotiators are dead. And what has happened so often, and Syrian Girl, who's great, she's at Partisan Girl on X, what she's pointed out is that, they always target the negotiators. Mossad always does this thing where they kill the negotiators. And she talked about they did the same in Syria, where the chief negotiators were slaughtered, as well as their children and their grandchildren. Okay, they did that in the negotiations that went on in Syria. And of course, now we have, Turkey, Israel alliance to, put in the Al Qaeda, chief who was in Gitmo for 5 years and just now ends up president of Syria, right? But also, she said, they, just as they did with killing the Iranian negotiators right before Trump was trying to make a deal with them, they, she pointed out also in the Oslo agreements that they did the same thing and they killed Itzhak Rabin, right? And any peace with Palestine and everything to do with Egypt. It just goes on and on and on. The false flags committed by Mossad, all right, and the Israeli IDF. And so that, I think, is our biggest danger here. And the USS Nimitz being the decoy going out first, okay, that's almost decommissioned, right? Pearl Harbor style. As we heard Putin's warning that there could be, a fake torpedo attack to try to say Iran did it, Russia did it on a U.S. battle carrier. And so the Nimitz is all out there, and also wanted to mention is that in Qatar, the huge base that is U.S.'s like hugest base for basically forward action to help Israel, okay, but also for the Middle East. It appears to be evacuated. That the largest air base there in Qatar, that the U.S. Really it's huge, is evacuated. Okay, it looks like everything's gone out of that, and is that because they anticipate an FF there? And Qatar, this message of that the Iranians wanted to meet up with Trump, this was sort of went through Qatar. And so it's very interesting to watch this, because no matter when you turn on Fox News or any of them, they're just like, no, 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 don't believe, the man behind the curtain. This is like, there's no way, Iran doesn't, they're lying, they don't want to talk, etc. And then coming out of Iran, official channels, we would never surrender, blah, blah, blah. I don't think that's true. Okay, I think there is something here where there is already probably Khamenei has left Iran, and the elites have left Iran, and that Trump is part of allowing that to happen. Okay. And it's very interesting when we hear from like Tucker Carlson, right? And with his great interview where he just was a boss over Ted Cruz, right? Senate Intelligence Committee, where it's basically, he's like, how many people live in Iran? And Ted Cruz had no idea. He's like 92 million. And he's like, what's their ethnicity, all the stuff that Ted Cruz couldn't answer. And he said, well, you want to topple the regime, you should at least know something about the country. It was very heated, very great. I'm linking it below so you can watch it if you didn't. But it was, Tucker Carlson with his high school debate team, massive super skills, have served him his whole life. And he did it so well, because at one point he basically said, Will Cruz said to him, you don't even think Iran had anything to do with trying to kill President Trump. And Tucker says, well, neither do you, because if you did, there would already be strikes of the USA against Iran. Like, we would have already been at war with Iran, right? If they had tried to kill Trump. So you don't believe it either. Just great debate entrapment. That was so good. And so much more of what we need of the smarts, okay, of the people who just totally dissect and obliterate the total vacuousness, okay, of these senators who are just on the dole of AIPAC and speaking the language of Zionism, basically. And so it was really great to see that. I'll link it below. Very interesting here when we have, I was talking about Syrian Girl and @Partisan Girl on X. I'll link it below. She was saying about Pahlavi that he's gay, that he's known to be gay, okay, and that he has a boyfriend for entertainment purposes only. He's married, has a wife, she's still the princess, but yet he's known to be openly gay and have some kind of boyfriend. So I just thought I'd throw that out there. That's according to her. That's what she said. So very interesting. Okay, and so I'm going to wrap it up with a few more news tidbits here, but that's where I'm at with what's going on there. It is, I think really important for us to understand that just because we don't want any of this going on doesn't mean it's not going on. Okay, the deep state cabal, the international globalist satanic cabal is going to keep attacking, and we have to deal with the attacks. Okay, we don't want the war, but the war is being waged against us. And so we have Trump to deal with it in the most precise, complex way possible. And so we pray for him. We pray for his team, for his safety, and for all of our safeties. And of course, God's intervention in any of the FFs, just like I believe there was intervention in this Red Lion group, okay, assassinations in Minnesota that could have gone much larger. There is God on our side. So let's keep praying, 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 because it's very, very important. And yeah, so let's. I want to shift here. Of course, Kristi Noem yesterday was rushed to the hospital after visiting Fort Detrick, with Rand Paul and RFK Jr. that went for an inspection tour of Fort Detrick. That is the bioweapons lab of the CDC and the NIAID. Just as they kind of do these trial runs, again, I would say pray for Trump that they don't try to do some biowarfare on him. So what happened with Kristi Noem is she's rushed by ambulance to the hospital because the day after she comes down with some massive allergic attack. And, coinkydinks like that don't happen, where you go to Fort Detrick, created by Sidney Gottlieb, straight out of, full on like Mangala trained, Fauci's mentor. Okay, total bioweapons guy, MK Ultra, all of it. Sidney Gottlieb. I've done tons of videos. It's been years now, but I did like like at least a half dozen videos where I talked about Sidney Gottlieb in Fort Detrick, but in the creation of biowarfare that came out of World War II and coming through that and the whole Army's science wing and all of it. But basically she goes to Fort Detrick and is I believe hit. I think this was an assassination attempt on Kristi Noem. And it's very interesting that she had a massive allergic attack. And I'm not trying to personalize this, but a few weeks ago I had that massive histamine attack that was a tick bite related. And then it came out a couple of weeks later, hey, by the way, we've got Rocky Mountain spotted fever going around, all of this. And I'm hearing about various other people having these histamine attacks. And so very interesting that she gets sick like that and then gets, she's okay, doing well today. But the kind of symptoms that come with that, or just a massive allergic reaction, this is the new biowarfare trend that seems to be out there. Okay, it's hitting us with this. It can hit the lungs, the organs, cytokine storm, all of it, and really the brain, everything. And so, prayers for her, because I always think they're always doing proof of concept for what they're going to do, how they're going to do it, to who else they're going to do it. So Trump just needs to be super uber careful right now. And very interesting to see this attack on Kristi Noem, and pray for her that she is okay. And so I want to bring just a couple other things here on my way out today. It's 23andMe. I brought it up, the sale to Regeneron, the monoclonal antibodies and all their DNA. Genetic medicine that they're doing well, in buying 23andMe, where you have this Frankenstein worst case scenario where everybody's DNA, because you signed the agreement, just gets to go to Regeneron. And it's in bankruptcy hearings this week, and you have time, especially you need to check out your state's laws. But I know in Texas that they have a law that protects medical data to do with corporate agreements, etc. And so you should be able, you should try to get your DNA destroyed in 23andMe. If you live in Texas, you're supposed to have the right to do this. And we have, of course, the great Paxton, AG Paxton, has been, bringing this up and filing lawsuits against 23andMe to protect the people of Texas, that they don't have the right to take their DNA and do whatever. And basically, it comes down to that this gets into not only your future generations, that this DNA affects your entire family. It affects, your kids, grandkids. the DNA capture and what it will enable them to do in conjunction medically with your family, but it also affects your ancestors and the people before you. This knowledge, this broad-based knowledge, ancestral, and the identification of anybody who is related to you, etc. And so, yeah, this is a worst case scenario that obviously would have always happened because that's what they do when these businesses go down. And so basically, Texans have a right to request their data be removed from 23andMe's database and that their genetic sample or results be destroyed. And of course, Paxton is basically saying contact his office if you have any trouble getting it destroyed. I'll see if I can link that below. But that's very disturbing. And then I also wanted to just end with this, which is a case also, this is also in Texas, where you had a woman, a couple, a man and woman, Emerald Giles Perkins and Daryl Perkins, suing the Methodist health system in Texas, basically for the death of their child, their son, who died one day after his birth. And the hospital lied to them and said that it was because of a virus that the mother had passed on to the infant. And it was a complete lie. They didn't believe it. And so they got an independent autopsy. And what actually killed the infant was because they used this vacuum device. And this is just so horrifying. But a vacuum device, okay, it's just so interesting because abortions, of course, are done with vacuums. But they're now, it used to be the old forceps, and you'd see people with they got like dented heads because getting pulled out too hard with the forceps. But basically, they did, instead of, basically, they did this thing called this vacuum device, which involves attaching a suction cup to the baby's tender little head, a massive suction cup attached to a vacuum, and a tender head, and the brains are right there, and basically just using this vacuum to pull the baby out during labor, and it's basically to make it easier for the doctor, like everything, right? Because childbirth has been captured by the medical industrial complex and just destroyed. But they use this vacuum extractor at least 4 times on this poor boy. And he died the next day from, the autopsy said, that it was because he had massive brain hemorrhages. Died a result of complications of childbirth with failed vacuum-assisted delivery. And so I really want to warn any couples out there who are pregnant that, any women out there who are pregnant, that don't ever allow the vacuum-assisted delivery because it is, even if it's used once, what does that do to the brain? My God. And so I just wanted to report on that. Okay, I think I'm going to leave it there today. I will bring in more analysis tomorrow as things roll out. I do believe there is an outlook here of putting that Nimitz out in front, right? I think actually, I think heavily monitored to see, will Israel strike again with an FF, right? I think that there's a bit of a pickle that the Israel Mossad is in here of what they can pull off at this juncture, and we will see what Trump decides. We will see probably by tomorrow some news, but I'm loving how there's days going by where nothing is being done. That obviously a lot of behind the scenes things are taking place. I think there's a lot of people leaving and escaping. And I think a lot of negotiations about what this regime change is going to look like. I know that, no, but for entertainment purposes only, Israel vying for control of who now, with the Pahlavi monarchy coming back as a possibility. I kind of bet that the Iranians being free of the Shiite Islamic radical regime would like their own government and not another monarchy. And so this is the wait and see. And will Russia play a part? And what will we come to see? So I'm going to leave it there. If you found there was added value in this video and you got some information that's helpful, please support the channel below. It's so appreciated. You keep me going. You allow me to do more videos, and I'm so thankful. And I also want to thank my great sponsor, c60evo.com/YAFTV. Use the code YAFTV for 10% off. This is the incredible ESS60 miracle molecule getting into your mitochondria through your whole body, including your brain and your neurons, to clean out the garbage from your cells and help your mitochondria get healthy so your DNA can stay healthy as well, repair itself. It is incredible for longevity, fighting the big C, used in clinics across the world, but especially in the USA, and also for inflammation, for workouts, for clarity and thinking, for a better mood, all of it. MCT oil, great for workouts because, of course, the MCT oil is so regenerative here in the coconut oil, and the organic olive oil capsules, organic as well here with the coconut. Organic olive oil, I like the capsules because I like how they digest, but you can get liquids in all of it. They have avocado oil as well. And what's great about this company is they are the original, kind of the OG of C60 in a way, because they created the ESS60 molecule that did all the studies that went through the Nobel Prizes and had everything to do with the radiation experiments that showed that rats would live enormous times longer, even if they were radiated, with no tumors because of taking this. And it's really incredible. Next week, I'm going to be doing a great interview with the chief scientist there at C60 Evo, where they have been funding longevity studies. And I'd love to see them put their money where our mouths are here, where they are basically, funding studies about longevity using ESS60 and c60evo.com/YAFTV. Use the code YAFTV for 10% off. And if you contribute to the channel, you get 15% off. That's if you ever do. And I always give away 2 bottles to contributors to the channel, randomly selected every month. And so see that you'll get a different code sent to you for the 15% off code and a different link and all of it. But for those of you who just want to give it a try, c60evo.com/YAFTV. Use the code YAFTV for 10% off. Okay, thanks for letting me plug, and thank you so much for supporting the channel. And we're going to be okay. JD Vance, he comes out and he says, hey, I think we should trust Trump here. I think he's earned our trust when it comes to foreign relations. And I agree with that, even though I don't always trust JD Vance. I know he's actually in these situation war rooms right now with everything going on. There's even talks that Vance might be sent to these discussions to do with the Iranians, right? And so we'll see. But I do agree that we can't put the hands, put the control of what's going on now into a totally corrupt and captured Congress and Senate. That we've got the Trump team. That's what we wanted. That's what we voted for, and that's what we've worked so hard for. And whatever is happening now, let's pray that it is for a more peaceful world, and a world that also allows America to thrive, and the protection of people everywhere. Because one thing that Trump came out and said so clearly today is, I just want to stop death. My main concern is stopping the killing of people. That is what I want the most, and that's what I'm basing my decisions on. So, prayers for that. And God bless us all. Let's please pray hugely, massively. Put on your full armor and speak the truth. Speak the truth to the people around you, and just keep doing locally what you can do to keep aid the progress here that we are making. It's so important, whether it's where you spend your money, what you do with your time, what you're willing to say and talk to people about. and of course, taking local action. Go to precinctstrategy.org. These 2026 elections are right around the corner, and that's why Bilderberg, gave told Powell, don't raise, you can't lower the interest rates. Trump is saying, hey, maybe I should go, and you think I can be in the Fed? Will they let me be in the Fed? That's one thing Congress could do is remove the charter of the Fed. But we're after Bilderberg, gave Powell the instruction, even though there's $88 billion and no inflation, $88 billion from tariffs coming in, no inflation. Again, Powell today won't lower the interest rate, even though they've done it 10 times in Europe. And they all are the same people, because all of the federal banksters here in the US, of the top federal banks of the different cities, go to the Bank of International Settlements and go to the Fed in Europe, and they meet 10 times a year to talk about the plan for the economic tyranny over the world. And in Europe, they've allowed them to lower interest rates 10 times. And we have no inflation. And what are they trying to do with this war is create inflation, blast up the amount of oil per barrel, blast up the cost of all energy, and of course, then blast up goods as they screw up the traffic of delivery systems with, of course, the shipping industry. So that's what they want to do, and stop the tariffs, interrupt the tariffs, all of it. So prayers are paramount, especially with others in person. So we will pray. You are free, and I will see you tomorrow.